101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have a special guest. She is the author of the book You're It. No other than Miss Tameka Anderson. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Micah, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Thanks so much for having me. They call me the fun coach, Tamika, because the fun is the acronym for the system that I use to help leaders find unmet needs so that they can shine in their unique personality and stand out in a world that is so crowded.
8 billion. Crowded. Definitely. So, Mr. Micah Anderson, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world. So, what inspired you to write Your Eat?
Well, one of the things that I often struggled with was this little monster called imposter syndrome. Now, I've always been a high achiever. I have a high IQ, super intellectual. I read all of the books. I love books. However, I found myself shrinking often. So I went on a quest because I'm super curious, and I went on a quest to see what is that gap. And here's what I found. I found, you see, if you look right here, right?
Yes.
Most people, this is where most people think and what they think about themselves, right? And who they think they are. Then there's this person right here, who they think the world will accept. And so in between that is imposter syndrome. So all the shrinking happens, all of the fear, the doubt, the guck, all of that stuff happens right here in the middle, in that gap. So I went on a quest to interview, let me see how many, maybe it's been about 200 leaders. And I wanted to know what happens in the gap and if it's different for people. And what I realize is that it's the same thing for every person. Like, I'm like, wow, this is interesting how many people are so much alike. And so I wanted to compile what I learned, what I've observed, and how to get out of that gap. And so Your It was born.
So, how do you define the eat factor in the context of this book?
Yes. So one of the things that I went down the rabbit hole of really trying to figure out is I heard people often say you either got it or you don't.
Hmm,
And so I'm debunking that myth. Everybody's got it. You just
sure.
have to be able to uncover it. So being able to define your it factor is based off of the 3 P's that I mentioned in my book. The first one is presence. If you think about any celebrity, like your favorite celebrity, just picture that person in your mind. You got them in your mind? Okay.
Yes, for sure.
Now, think about their presence. They have a commanding or demanding presence about themselves, right?
Yes.
So that's the first P. The second P is personality. All the celebrities you know have a very distinct personality, which makes them them. And then those 2 P's actually make up the final P, which is influencing power. It takes your presence, how you fill a room, and your personality, how you show up in the room, to really refine your influencing power, like how you're able to influence people to make a decision. And that is how you define your it factor.
Very well said. Miss Tameka. Very well said.
Thank you.
So, what is the biggest misconception people have about discovering their it factor?
So it all goes back to the gap. So again, there's a person that we think of in our brains that we think we are. And then
Yes.
there's a person that we think the world will accept. So the biggest misconception is that people care about you. They don't. That is the
True.
biggest misconception. And so I'm here to help people focus on who you think you are. Show up as that person because most people don't care about you.
True. They don't think about you, people. So, let it go what people think about you.
Yes.
So this let's talk about discovering your it factor. What are the first steps someone should take to identify their unique it factor?
Yeah. This is my favorite thing to talk about because in identifying it, I often tell people you want to really identify that one thing that people both compliment and criticize you for. For example, when I was younger, oh my goodness, should I tell this story? When I was younger, I
Go on.
yes, listen, so I was I love to talk. And it was
Yes.
just like, stop talking so much, stop talking so much. And my favorite question, and still is why? But why? But why? But why? So I was often criticized for that. But guess what? As an adult, once I started really defining it, I get paid big money to talk. So this is why I tell people
Likewise.
make sure you look at what people have criticized you for and complimented you for. And that is your it factor.
Certainly. So, how does self awareness play a role in uncovering one's true potential?
Well, self awareness is how you uncover. You cannot uncover something if you don't know where it is. So you have to be very, that's the first P. You got to be present with yourself. You have to know what triggers certain reactions from you. You have to really be dialed in to what it is that you as your person need. So, although I am extremely conversational, I love people, I love to have conversations, I am an introvert. So, I
The opposite.
listen, I need a lot of time alone with some books and nature and quietness.
Yes.
So, because I
True.
know this about myself, I can create my schedule where if I know that I'm doing interviews, then I also have time where I'm sitting and reflecting and basking in the silence. But that's where self awareness plays in because now that I know that, I can show up and be my full self wherever I go because I'm feeling myself before I go. So that is the reason why self awareness is so important.
Totally agree, Miss Tameka. Are there any common traits or qualities shared by people who have mastered their it factor?
Absolutely. Again, we're going to go back to celebrities, people who
Yes.
are out there that you actually know their names. If you know their name, they have mastered their it factor. That's it.
Yes.
So the
Like Miss
traits, like I was
Tameka.
talking about, the three P's, the
Yes.
traits are presence. They have this commanding, or like I said, demanding presence.
Demanding present.
Oh,
True.
goodness. We'll talk about that too. But they have a big presence, right? They walk in the room and their presence fills the room. So that's trait number one. Trait number two, they also have a big personality, meaning their personality is what captivates you. You're just like, you want to listen to them all day. You want them to just talk or just be in the room. They're interesting. And then that influencing power. They can this is one of the reasons why you have celebrity brand endorsements, by the way, because they know that if you have honed into your it factor, if you're a celebrity, you can say, hey, I use this. And guess what? People are going to go out and buy it. So that is the influencing power. So the three P's, those are the three traits of someone who has mastered their it factor.
So, Mr. Mega, let's talk about cultivating and curating your strength. What are some practical exercises or strategies to strengthen and refine one's it factor?
Okay. So one of the things is you have to learn how to practice self awareness. If you cannot practice self awareness, there's no way you can really dig up like the weeds because, so I hate to say this, but for every good, there's a not so good. And for a personality trait that is good, there's a downside to it. For example, let's talk about it. Stubbornness. Let me just say that. Okay. I have always been called stubborn. Okay. Most people see that as a bad thing. Oh, you're so stubborn, meaning not flinching, not budging. On the good side, though, I could not have built a business in 2010, survived a pandemic, and still in business in 2025 if I weren't stubborn.
That's the good side.
So, being aware of your personality traits and learning how to use them in a productive, beneficial way is a very practical tip, right?
Yes.
Another thing to just curate it and just refine it, learn how to become a storyteller. I have three tips on becoming an effective storyteller. And me being a writer, I like to make things easy for people. Make it fast, make it funny, and make them
Yes.
feel something. Maya
Yes.
Angelou said, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you make them feel. So when I talk to my clients and we are honing our storytelling, I'm like, make it fast. How can you say something in a punchy way that people will remember, but you're very quick with it and leave them wanting more, right? Make it
Yes.
funny. People will remember when you're funny. Why do you think comedians are so well known? People like
True.
to laugh. And then make them feel something. If you are someone telling a message, make sure you're using the words that that will evoke a strong reaction so that people will feel something. And those three F's, that is how you curate your it factor.
Oh, people, you need to follow Mr. Mega so that you have your it. So how can someone align their it factor with their personal and professional goals?
Oh, this is really, really good. So the thing is to know what you want. Okay. And you know what you want. Now that you know what you want, you can see how your personality shines through. Okay. So for me, I want to educate leaders on how to really refine their personal brand. Now, how do I want to do that? I want to do that through speaking. So, in doing that, okay, I like to speak. I think I speak pretty well. And so I show up in places like, "Hey, Daniel has a podcast. Do you mind if I have a conversation with you?" So this way, now you're using your personality, your it factor, and they're aligning with your goals, and it's a win-win-win because I'm here having a conversation with you, sharing some good news with other people, and they'll be able to use this information and go about their lives. At the same time, I'm using my it factor. So combining your goal in a way that works with your it factor and creating win-win-win-win-win for everybody. That is how you do that.
Certainly. So, Mr. Menka, what would be your advice for those people out there who want to develop their it?
Okay, so this is what I would say to do. When you have identified your it, now you need to look to see who is someone who's already mastering their it and start to focus on what it is that you have been drawn to. Like for me, I I always say my it factor has been cultivated and defined and developed by the three M's: Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Maya Angelou. Because when I was younger, I was so drawn to them. I was drawn to the stance of Dr. King and how he just commanded attention, but in a very non, aggressive way. Then Malcolm X, I was drawn to his authenticity. I said the word right. Yay. I
Yes.
was drawn to that. He was who he was. He showed up every single time as himself. Even when he was wrong, he publicly apologized. So that was very, courageous for me. And then there's Maya. Oh, I love everything about her grace, the way her cadence is when she speak, how she told great stories, how she kept you on the edge of your seat. And so I did deep dives into their speaking styles. And I was like, oh, I like this. I like. And so I began to just practice. I would say speeches and I would stand like Dr. King and I would be graceful as Maya. And that is how you develop. You look and you see other people who have already successfully done it and you model how they showed up in the world. You don't imitate, you model how they showed up in the world. And that's how you do that.
You model and make your uniqueness. So you'll be are you will be the next Maya.
I will not be the next Maya. I will be the only Tameka. I would say,
Very well said. Yes, very well said. I like the way you say it. And thank you for your advice. So, what will be your short term and long term goals in writing?
oh, short term is very very easy. I'm actually launching an app soon for but it's actually for mental wellness to help
Mental
people
health.
build community because like a few years ago I had like an anxiety attack. I didn't even know it was an anxiety attack, but I was going into a place and my daughter, my youngest daughter, was with me. And like my stomach started hurting. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's happening. And she grabbed my hand and then she hugged me. So I went into the restroom. And before I got there, I saw a friend. My friend grabbed me and squeezed me so tight. And as I was coming out, another friend grabbed and squeezed me. Well, guess what? My anxiety attack told all of the symptoms were gone. So I figure it takes three touch points from people that really truly care about you to help you to minimize a lot of those feelings. So that's my short-term goal, is to launch that app. And my long-term goal is to inspire people to show up as themselves. Every person I meet, I want them to show up as the only Daniel Lucas.
Thank you so much for doing that, Mr. Mega, and good luck to your goals. Would you like to be my guest also on my Mental Health 101? Let's talk about mental health awareness because we
Absolutely.
need this. We need this, people. So let's talk about overcoming challenges in bringing out your eat. What are some of the biggest challenges people face when trying to stand out?
Okay, so remember how I told you that you'll see people who are already in the field doing the thing? So, one of the main challenges people have is they try to be like that person. That's why when you said, will you be the next Maya? I said,
Next
no,
Maya.
I will be the only Tamika. And this is something that I actually teach my clients. I'm not telling you to look at that person because I want you to be that person. I'm telling you to look at that person to see how they're showing up and to be inspired by their personality, their presence, their influencing power so that you can step into your own and say, hey, listen, because of this person, I'm here today to be able to be myself. And so that is like the main challenge that I see a lot of people. They just feel like, okay, well, I need to be like this person. And it's very frustrating because that's only that one person. We're one of one. And so showing up as ourselves while being inspired by someone else is the biggest challenge.
Totally agree. So, Miss Tamika, how do you handle criticism or resistance when stepping into your unique identity?
Ooh, I had a mentor who taught me
Mm.
something very valuable, and I'm so grateful. He said, Tamika, you got to learn how to stop taking things personally. And I got offended. I got offended at first. And then I was like, tell me more about that. He said, whether it's a compliment or criticism, do not take it personally. I said, but how do you not take a compliment personally? How do you not take criticism personally? They're saying this to you personally. So how do you not take it personal? And he says, and I quote, everything that people say to you is a projection of where they're coming from. That was the best advice ever. Because even if someone is giving me a compliment, I'm still not taking it personally. And guess what that helps me to do? It helps me to stay focused on who I am so that I can continue to tweak and don't get big headed and say, oh, I'm the greatest. I know. I told you so. And then
Yes.
also with criticism, I don't take that personally as well too. It is based off of how someone else feels or thinks and perceives. So even though I can take feedback, obviously, but I don't have to take criticism personally. And so being able to learn how to do that has been the best, when I say the best advice ever, the best.
Certainly. For sure, people. Uh, Let it go and don't think what they call this. Don't care of what people say about you.
Hmm.
Let it go. Don't stay there. So,
Yeah.
how can someone stay authentic while also adapting to new opportunities and environments?
Yeah. So what happens is when you continuously do what I call check in with yourself, I know that imposter syndrome is, oh, it's such a huge monster. It's like right here in your face. So, being able to check in with myself when I enter a room, you can tell when you're shrinking. You can tell. It shows up in your body. You can feel it. It's almost like you're kind of cowering a little bit. So, when you feel that, when you feel yourself doing that, do a check in, maybe excuse yourself and go. And I have this list on my phone, on my notes app, and it's just some things that I've accomplished even against all odds.
Yes.
So when I find myself shrinking, I will read over the list and said, "You did this. In spite of that, you did this." So by the time I get to the bottom of the list, guess what's happening? Oh, I'm really present now. So my presence begins to really say, yes, I did. I did do that. So now I'm walking in who I am versus trying to be who someone else is or who they may think I should be. I am who I am. And so that's how I do that.
Certainly. Count your blessing, people, before you complain.
Mhm.
So, Miss Tamika, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, and its fifth season, people. Fifth season with my co-host, Chef Alessandro, one of a specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen. Food 101, wherever you listen your podcast. So, if readers could take away just one key lesson from this book, what should it be?
One key lesson would be find out who you are and become that person every day. That's it.
Yes, that's it. Discover yourself and be your it. Develop it and show to the world. That's what we are doing with Miss Tamika. Oh, Tamika. Did I pronounce your mispronounce your name, Miss Tamika? I want to apologize.
No, you pronounced it. Name.
So, Mr. Mika Anderson, thank you so much for sharing your books to the world and encouraging us to motivate us to produce more or to create more or to cultivate our eat. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your upcoming Your Eat?
Yes. Well, you can go to the website. It's youritbook.com. And I have a quiz on there. You don't even have
Yes.
to try to figure out your it factor. I have a 2-minute quiz that you can take that will help you find your it factor. So check it out.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Tamika Anderson because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Miss Tamika, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.